you know, the selection that Andy Farrell's come up with shows the team's respect, and so they should. And he's absolutely right, because a lot of the teams from the Pacific, the Tonga, Samoa and Fiji, they don't get a lot of time together as a national team. And it's the same with the South Americans. So when they do, it's really special for them. You know, I've been fortunate to experience it a little bit on the fringes, and just see it close hand, the emotion and the families and the whole way they do it is as a family, which is the basis of their community. So they're coming out and playing for a reason.
Yeah, it's a great point that they get now that running a bit of time together to build for it, which is why, and leads us in nicely, Matt's point there, Ian. Let's talk about Andy Farrell's team selection. And look, what he said, and like he was kind of saying, look, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You obviously don't. You might want to rest players or not risk injuries with South Africa coming next week. But he said, respecting the opposition, respecting the competition, but more so respecting ourselves. He's just taking every game as it comes and wants to get that win tomorrow and have no messing around. What do you make of the selection going so strong for tomorrow?
Yeah, look, rugby's a full contact game. You can't be worried about injuries. It's a really strong Irish side. I think he's looking to build momentum off the back of that Romanian game, leading into the South African match. Look, I know, you know, the general public and the supporters are probably surprised to see, you know, Johnny Sexton starting at 10. You know, his second game in a row in 6 months. But with Johnny, I know he would have wanted to play this, and he's a tough man to say no to. So
how would you know?
But no, look, it's really important. I think you know, looking at that Irish team, I thought Bundy was brilliant last week, and you know, partnering up with Gary Ringrose, who by his high standards I thought was a bit quieter last week, and they're going to have a real duel. Aki is a fantastic centre alongside Fekitoa, who we've seen, you know, had a great year for Munster this year, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
What Ian says there, Grace, about building momentum, he's obviously weighing that up, Andy Farrell. He's also getting, you know, there's going to be game time for the likes of Ross Byrne off the bench as well, you know, versus that nightmare scenario of waking up Monday morning with a horrible injury list.
Yeah, it is a real balance. Like, you look at Samoa though as well, and like how the game plan didn't really go. It was a really tough battle. So, you know, he'll want them to be clinical and go, you know, not take it for granted, and these guys to earn their place. You know, we've seen the likes of Pierre O'Mahony play an amazing game, you know, last week, and then he's starting then again this week with Ty Byrne moving into second row. So it is a balance, but you can't disrespect the team. You can just go and let's change 9 players like France did, you know, but are you going to get that consistency and build that cohesion between players? Because the next game's a huge one for them. So if you keep building that cohesion, start playing off each other, yes, there is the risk of injury, but hopefully then it'll stand to them when they face South Africa.
Do you have a little fear about that match, you know, and you, as Grace suggests, Farrell obviously thinking about the warm-up game against Samoa and beyond, which was a tough old scrap, and thought, well, I can't risk that again. And maybe that's factoring into his thinking with the selection. But you worry about the sequence of the games, and that maybe it mightn't be falling ideally.
Look, let me just start by saying Andy Farrell's earned all our respect. He's made great decisions for the last 2.5 years, and he's with the team and he knows best. I'm not trying to argue against it, just saying what a concern I have is saying that this team you have now that's selected, and let's say we're here to win it. Right, we're not here to make up the numbers. You're not here for a haircut, as we say. You're here to win it. So that means basically that's our best team. They've got to play every game. Now, France aren't doing that, New Zealand aren't doing that, South Africa aren't doing that. So the only way we'll know when this is right is looking in the rearview mirror, which, you know, hindsight's perfect. So we're in the cheap seats. He's had to make that. But there's no doubt it is a risk. Now, Grace pointed out to me beforehand that there is a 14-day break between South Africa and Scotland, so the guys will get a break. But it is a significant number of big games. Remember, every game you play, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So maybe, you know, 2020 hindsight again, maybe they should have played the best team against England and then against Samoa in Bayonne. And last week, the second team should have played against what is obviously now the weakest team in the competition. Pick your big team this week and then go on from it. But that means they will have played... That top team pretty much will have played every game in the tournament if they get to the final. That is a very, very big ask.
We won't know the answer to that, as Matt says, until later in the tournament and how it all pans out. What we will know by tomorrow is whether they can improve on the line-out. The stats for the line-out are a bit worrying. Grace, we'll give that one to you. There's 66% success rate last week. Ireland's line-out was the worst in the tournament last weekend against one of the weakest teams. And that's something that they're asked in every press conference about it, and they say, oh, it's a few tweaks, it'll be fine. Kind of needs to come right now, doesn't it, with South Africa coming next week?
Yeah, there was I won't say excuses, but Paul O'Connell spoke after and said there were small tweaks, in that Samoa game, and it was like maybe the wrong call initially or timing at a jump, and it wasn't like one, systematic problem throughout the line-out, that it was a couple of little errors. But, the start of that Romania game, you wanted momentum, start strong. One, we gave up a try, and two, we gave away 2 line-outs in a row straight off the bat. And that's not how you want to start a game. You want to be clinical, you want to make the right calls, and, you can't be given easy possession to the opposition. So, I suppose keeping the strong team on, you expect... 68% is terrible after, what we expect from Ireland and what we saw in the Six Nations. It's
so Irish, isn't it, Ian? After a record win last week, we're worried about everything. We've got the selection wrong, as a line-out wrong. Bouncing on from last week, if they produce another performance like that, this could be a real springboard tomorrow, couldn't it? Is that what you're anticipating?
Yeah, look, the Tongans are a strong side, but they do have some weak links in there, and Ireland's style of play, in my opinion, is suited to playing against a team like Tonga. You need to go 6, 8, 10 phases against them to create those mismatches and expose the weaker players in their team. What you don't want to end up doing is getting into a physical arm wrestle with these guys, because they're really strong and they do have game breakers. If you can get Aki, Fekitoa, Piatau, genuine one-on-ones, there are 3 players that are going to make something happen. And Ireland are going to have their wits about you. You need to get 2 defenders on those guys every time, because not only is their footwork, incredibly good, but they also have a great offloading game.
OK.